Hello, welcome to Frank's School. 144th day of the 5th year. Portugal and the Alps, Prequel. This is my third prequel. This is E, letter E. And you might, if you were following this, you might begin to think, oh, when's he finally going to get to the Alps? Tomorrow. I'll get there. I have one more, let me adjust that camera just. I have one more little story to tell about Portugal, and I wouldn't just remember. I'm not just telling all the stories I can come up with from my travels. These are things that would pertain to you if you would decide to come along or on your own make this trip. But not exactly this part, because Joyce and I had gone north. We wanted to see the mountains, in central Portugal, where it actually rained and stuff. And as I'll say later, this whole day that I'm going to describe briefly was formative. It really left an impression. I'll come back to that. Anyway, in Penacova, which we had stumbled across, we stayed in the Pensão Avenida. I decided I would give you that name. And I did not remember the town's name. I did not remember the Pensão's name. But then I found it 2 years ago. 2 years ago with the Hawklings. I found it. And as I said, I gave you the link where you could see that. Well, we made it there. The very next day, we set off, because we only had 3 days. We'd rented a car for just 3 days, and the first day got us there. The second day, what we did was we intended to basically drive around the Serra da Estrella, the highest mountain in Portugal, at least in continental Portugal, to go around it, and we set about to do that, which was maybe doable. And I say maybe because I'll explain. Well, when we headed out, there's a couple things I remember quite clearly. One, we stopped, and I suppose it was we stopped to get gas, I suppose. That I don't know. It was like a little, sort of a little bit like a store. But what I remember about that is we were made so welcome there. It was almost like dignitaries, celebrities had arrived. And I think it was because we spoke fluent Portuguese, like Brazilians. And, we were tourists, and the people were so nice. They came outside and they talked. And one man especially, I could dig through my stuff and probably find it, because I still have it. He gave me a book that he'd written of his poems, a poetry booklet, cheaply printed, but he signed it, and I still have it. And I thought later I should maybe see if I could, be fun to see if I could find who that guy was, and I don't know. But anyway, they were just so nice. And then we headed on. Now, as we went around, there are many things about this day that I just don't remember at all. But toward the end of the day, as we were getting around the far side, we had no intention to come all the way back to Penacova. I think we were going to stay in Castelo Branco or some place on the far side of the Serra da Estrella. But there was a forest fire, and now I remember real clearly. We were stopped. It was already dark now, or getting dark. And we were stopped because the forest fighters were stopping everybody on the road and making them go up onto the slopes to fight that fire. And I remember looking up and seeing these pine trees just exploding in the fire. Portugal has a real problem with fires on those mountains. But when they realized that we were actually tourists, that we weren't Portuguese, they decided to send us on. Although, or I mean, maybe it was because Joyce was there, a woman. Our Portuguese was good enough, but they just decided no, they sent us on. Problem was, now we were lost. I remember going down, I think it was like a dirt road or something, and it was dark. It was getting dark already, and we were lost, and we stayed lost. I said around the Serra de Estrella. Actually, I think in the end we ended up going right over the top of the Serra de Estrella. And although it's not a terribly high mountain, maybe 6,000 feet, it was desolate up there. It was empty. We were running out of gas, and we were in this tiny little car. There were really no trees. There were certainly no towns, nothing. And we were going over this mountain, going down the far side, and I was really getting worried. I didn't know what we could do. Our plan was changed, and anyway, we finally resolved to try to make it back to Penacova, which we did. It must have been 10 o'clock at night by the time we finally got there. It was not what we had planned, and to our enormous relief, they had a vacancy. So we got to stay. I think I remember them saying, "Sure, we got a place." We had made it back to Penacova. And then one other thing, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but on the next day, when we headed back to Lisbon, we had a little bit of extra time. It was clear that we were going to make it to Lisbon without much trouble. And so instead of just going straight, I remember at one point we turned to the right, soon after leaving Penacova, turned to the right and went up over the edge of the valley and down in just to see what was up there. And here we drove right into a feta. I've never been able to find what that feta was or what that town was, but I remember it quite clearly. It was rather awkward to be driving this little tiny car in there, and it was just, the streets were just packed with people because it was the feta. That's the weekly market day. People on foot, peasants coming into the feta, and we were such a curiosity. What were we doing there? You know, I was rather glad to get back out of there, and then we headed on. One other thing I'll tell you that I did find later, I haven't found that, but I found the Mata, we began, Mata Bossaco, I think that's the way you pronounce it. There is, that means the forest of Bossaco. I had remembered seeing signs about some forest, or some park, and we were sorely tempted to try to go there to see it, but we decided that we just did not have time enough. But I remembered that, and that ended up helping me finally find Penacova and find where I had been. And Shirley and I, and then 2 years later, Shirley and Thomas and I went to the Mata de Bossaco, a really beautiful palace and forest, real special. And I'll give you a link for that too in the description. But we didn't stop there, and we went on, and we went back to Lisbon, and then the next day flew on to Geneva. All right. The one thing I've stopped to tell you is, as I even though that day was formative in it, I've wanted to go back with Shirley, with Thomas and Shirley. In a rented car, I tried to get back there to see what I had seen before, and had some success, not what I'd like. And if I travel to Portugal again, if I actually do this trip, the plan is that a friend of mine, if he goes with me, and I will rent a car, and we'll once again drive into that area to see that. It was formative. And yet, I don't remember a lot of real details. Well, let me back up. The last clear detail I remember is as we were driving along, this was the grape harvest, and we were driving along, and the vineyards on both sides were full of people bringing green grapes in baskets, harvesting and bringing them in. And we came to a place where there was a sign that said Vinho Verde Fresca, Fresco, probably said fresh green wine for sale, just a homemade sign. And we thought, this is pretty, let's go in and see what that tastes like. And we drove in, and we got there, and you were expected to have your own jug. It was really homey. And they just would fill your jug and on you'd go. Well, we didn't have any jug. But they came up with something. And it was really almost like buying apple cider somewhere, fresh apple cider. Because one of the things about Vinho Verde is that it is not aged. It's not really supposed to be aged. Anyway, we filled the jug. And I do not like wine. I really do not like wine. But this was the best wine that I'd ever tasted. I think it had something to do with it being so fresh or something. I'm not so sure. It was really good. I've talked to a wine expert, a relative of mine, about it, and he knew what Vinho Verde was. And I've tried to, that means green wine. I've tried to buy it in a bottle before in a store in Portugal, but it just was not the same. This was the best wine experience I'd ever had. But anyway, a couple of days ago, I was thinking about this, and had this funny thought, and I thought, you know, is that why I don't remember anything real clearly about most of that day? Because that Vinho Verde was so good. I sort of hate to think about it that way, but anyway, the two might go together. Well, all right. Next video, possibly tomorrow, we're going to be in Switzerland because then Joyce and I flew on, and that will be absolutely pertain to what the experience you could have if you decided to use my itinerary for Portugal and the Alps. This part up there, no, not for the ordinary traveler. Bye for now.